about this. Quarantines, testing, contact tracing, airport screenings. Does all this sound very familiar? Unfortunately, don't worry. It is not 2020 again. It's not COVID. But this is serious. There is a different virus outbreak in India that is triggering all of those familiar precautions in parts of Asia right now. It is called the Nipah virus, and it's often deadly, has a fatality rate of 40 to 75%. There are only 2 cases of the virus in India so far, but it has prompted airports in Thailand, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia to step up their screenings to prevent a bigger outbreak. And the virus is carried by bats and pigs, but it can be spread human contact. But how easy is it to be transmitted? What's the incubation period? How worried should we be? I'm joined right now by an infectious disease epidemiologist at the Hartford Belfer Center, Dr. Saira Madad. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it. What exactly is the Nipah virus?
Well, the Nipah virus is a serious virus, and as you've mentioned, it does have a high case fatality rate, anywhere from 40 to 70%, and that also depends on where you're getting healthcare services. So if you're in a country that has good healthcare delivery system, you could probably get much better care, and that case fatality rate is much lower. Now, with that said, as I mentioned, it is a serious virus. It has no approved vaccines or therapeutics, but in this context, it is a small and contained outbreak, and it is being monitored. And so when we look at these 2 cases that have been confirmed in India, in West Bengal, about 200 contacts have been identified, tested, and are negative. And at this time, no additional cases have been detected. Noted, a couple of countries have started to implement enhanced airport screening. That's more of a sign of a precautionary step than to signal a wider spread of transmission. So this is just precautionary.
So wait a minute. You basically having the same thing, and that they saying that it comes from an animal, and they're starting to do contact screening. They have to.
It comes from an animal in which you still eat. A lot of y'all out there still eating them animals, and these viruses come from these animals, right?
Prompt them to step up their screenings and make sure that they're containing a virus. On top of that, there's an incubation period of at least 2 weeks, which means that somebody could have jumped on a plane after getting in contact with it, however they're getting in contact with it. And here from 44 to I know one thing is for sure and 2 things is for certain. I'm never going through a shutdown again. You can forget it. I'm not within a house.
I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to just buck the system? You're going to go to another country? Do you got your own piece of land where you can just do what the hell you want to do? I mean, you living in the city of Detroit in a condo, people shut the city down. What do you expect? What are you going to do? Are you just going to buck the system?
Ever again, it's just not happening. So what is now being communicated, because this has hit my desk, and obviously I've gotten a lot of emails from different people that are highlighting, hey, Anton, can you speak on this? What are your thoughts on this? So on and so forth. My job for you guys is to inform you. Yes, I do give you my opinion. Yes, I do give you my perspective, but then at the same time, you have to draw your own conclusions and come to the conclusion that you are going to make a decision based off of the information that's provided for you. So when I see something like this comes across my desk or in my email, and I'm starting to see ones of it, because I remember during the pandemic or during what they would call COVID or the coronavirus, I noticed people communicating about it. And I even seen somebody way back in August, September of 2019. By the time that they started to communicate it to everybody else, it was 2020. And I remember, and I told y'all this on the Millionaire Morning Show for those of y'all that's tuned in, I had a nephew who I had went over, and his brother, who they lived together, and he was like, yo, Anton, you got to come and see this. You got to check this out. And so we went over there, and we was just like, yo, what's going on? Did you go to the hotel, all of this stuff, to the hospital? And he was like, yo, they couldn't figure it out. They said it wasn't the flu, but I just feel deathly ill. He was like, yo, I feel deathly ill. I don't know what's going on. He said, I can't taste. I can't breathe. And he was a relatively young guy. He was only 23, 24, maybe even 22 at the time. And so he wound up getting over it and all of that. But I was just like, I was talking about people, and I said, this is crazy. I don't know what this is. You know what I'm saying? And I remember because it was going into the fall. It was summer going into the fall. And he was just getting violently ill and stuff like that. And I started seeing And this was in Detroit, right? And they didn't even start to talk about it or have a conversation about it until 2020, right? That's when it really started to break out, and then they started shutting everything down and they panicked. And you know the rest, right? You live through it. It's almost like they don't even talk about it anymore. And so for a lot of people, because there was a lot of people that passed away, Andrew Cuomo's career was taken as a result of it. For a lot of people, maybe they just buried it, but it's almost like a wound that people actually tried to forget about that never happened. But let me bring y'all up to speed on what more we can learn about this so that you guys can be prepared if in the event that anything ever spreads over here to the United States of America, God forbid.
Concern is whether or not that would actually work. I read that it has a 2-week incubation period. Sometimes symptoms might not even show. This can be spread human contact, but it's different than COVID, right?
Tu dirección de residencia te está costando caro. Te están pagando 5 veces menos.
Nipah virus, it is not like that. It doesn't spread through kind of the airborne route. There are 3 ways of transmission. And so when we talk about the 3 ways of transmission, one is from animals to humans. That is what oftentimes starts. That is what starts the outbreak. And so coming in contact with an infected animal, such as a bat, or through the foodborne route, meaning that an infected animal has contaminated food products like fruit or even a date palm sap, and then a human consumes that and then gets infected. And then the third way is human-to-human transmission. And through human-to-human transmission, that is close, prolonged contact. So oftentimes we see that in household settings or in healthcare settings where infection prevention and control is as great.
So in other words, and correct me if I'm wrong, it could be transmitted maybe like the norovirus. So it's not, you have to have prolonged contact with somebody. Is it somebody who's showing symptoms? Because again, the question is going to be, what do people do to prevent this? What are ways that they should avoid it?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. And what's important is because it doesn't spread as easily through the airborne route like measles and COVID, it is more difficult to get it. But it obviously, you can still get infected if you're in close contact with any infected animal sources, bodily fluid that's infected, or infected food sources. So with that, prevention really is to avoid these contaminated sources. When we talk about the incubation period, it is anywhere from 4 to 14 days. So when somebody is symptomatic and you see, it's the basic precautions. If you see somebody that is sick, you want to make sure you're keeping a distance from them. And especially if you're in that local area where this outbreak is happening, you want to be even extra cautious. But in other countries, for example, regional spread, it's still very low. And, you're seeing these airports, these countries doing enhanced airport monitoring as a precaution. But in terms of spread more internationally, for example, to the United States, that threat is quite low, but it's always good to be prepared.
And by the way, just to reiterate this, what are the symptoms exactly that you should be on the lookout for? And we mentioned there's no therapeutics or vaccines yet. If you get it, how do you treat it? So 2 questions, what are the symptoms and how do you treat it?
Yeah. So the symptoms, initial symptoms could be fever, cough, sore throat, and then it can progress to pneumonia or even neurological conditions and the like. And so it could be pretty rapid sometimes. And then in terms of, the treatments, there is no treatments or vaccines available. So it's really supportive care. So in the hospital, getting supportive care like intensive care support and the like. And we do have some investigational therapeutics, but nothing that's approved.
All right. I hope this is the end of the conversation. Hopefully it is contained. Dr. Medad, thank you so much for taking the time to explain it to us, because I don't know if a lot of people know what's going on.
Obviously, we don't ever want this type of thing to ever happen or spread throughout the United States of America or the world for that matter. Would you ever go into a shutdown mode ever again? Or would you ever take a vaccine? Let me know what you guys think behind this whole situation.
So he wants to know what we think. I mean, you're supposed to be giving us information on what we're supposed to do if another situation like the COVID does happen again. How are we supposed to remedy that situation? I know you give a lot of good information out on investing and using your own money and so on and so forth when it comes to that. When it comes to being sustainable, we live in off-grid here in the jungle of Central America with solar panels on our roof, fruit trees outside a garden, no mortgage, creek, well water. You're talking about not obeying the law. You're not going to go on another shutdown. You can't say things like that without telling people how you're going to move around, because if they shut things down, what are you going to do? There's nothing you really can do but obey the law, unless you're on your own plat of land, which you may have, but you're not speaking about it. Your own farm, growing your own food. You like to eat meat. Hopefully you are your own cattle or whatever the hell you're doing. But a lot of y'all ain't even healthy. Y'all not eating right. You know what I mean? That's why these viruses are plaguing your bodies every time you come into contact with them. You're getting on the planes. I travel a lot. I mean, not recently, I've been here, but a lot of us don't eat the right way. So that's why these viruses be fucking us up when we come in contact with them. We get on these planes, you know, we coming into contact with a whole bunch of people and so on and so forth. You know, and when that get to our body, we're not taking the herbs and the teas and everything and the fruits and the vegetables and getting the proper amount of sunlight and exercising, you know. And for somebody like that, I would expect for you to give us the information, the people that you claim to want to help, and you claim that, you know, you the bag chasers, but you know, while you chasing the bag, you still got to be in good health. And if you got not in good health, then what's the point of having that bag that y'all supposedly want to chase every day? You know, because we can go chase the bag, but if we're not in good health, then what's the point? And you wear this hat called bag chasers, and that are supposedly, but if they're not in good health, then what the hell is the point of chasing that bag that y'all got, or that y'all talk about so fucking much? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not in good health and perfect standing, then what's the point? The point, really, you know. And you coming on here asking us what we think, we want to know what you think. We want to know what you're going to do if they shut shit down. Where have you invested your funds? How are you going to eat if shit go to hell? How? Because it's a lot of people that you got that you influencing. 20,000 that's paying for that shit every month. And that's cool. Because you are giving a lot of jewels out on how to get the money. You are. And I respect that. You know, we still have to eat every day. That's first and foremost. And what you're doing with that money, yeah, you showing us how to invest that money and putting your own money up. And I respect that. I love it. Because I like to put up my own. But at the end of the day, you still have to get your shit together. And you look like you a little out of shape. You look like you're a little sloppy. You look like you need to do some jogging. You look like you need to do some sit-ups and eat the right way, you know? So hopefully you telling your folks how to get right with their body, because you're not getting younger. Like I said, I respect how you do your thing when it comes to getting the money and showing people, because that's what you're speaking about, this virus. It all comes down to the health at the end of the day, you know. But, you know, we could do a challenge. I just did a 10-day water fast, coconut water. A lot of y'all can't go 2 or 3 days without food, without catching a headache, without dope fiend withdrawals and symptoms, because y'all bodies ain't correct and ready. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I'm not here to bash. I'm just telling you what it is. What I see is someone that looks like they're out of shape, someone that needs to get their body in order. You know, you got your money right. You can pay for the highest quality of food. You might as well pay for it. You pay for all these Porsches and these penthouse suites. You might as well pay for the highest quality of food at the top of the food chain. And get your health right. Show your followers how to get their body right, not only their money. Because if their body ain't right, they can't spend the money anyway. Anyway, yeah, be self-sustainable. Get off the grid.